Welcome, everybody, to the BetIt Sports Podcast for the true sports fan. My name is Jackson Cole. I'm here with my co-host. I'll let him introduce himself.
Jacob Anthony, aka Slush. Both two boys from the Bay Area, born and raised. We love sports from a young age. We grew up playing it all, very versatile. And you can see Roracle in the background. Big Warrior fans, Warrior Giants, Niners. Besides this guy's a Saints fan. But yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so we saw a gap. We'll give you a little reasoning behind the podcast. We saw a gap in the sports world as far as just real takes. You got the Stephen A's of the world, you got the Skips, the Shannons, just going for clickbait, and rage bait, view bait, all the baits. And we wanted to fill that gap. We wanted to, have a garage style, a barbershop style talk show where we can talk sports, and we wanted to share our takes with the world. We wanted to have that space where we can have our opinions be out there in the world, and we can have debates, and a spot where we can interview athletes. We have access to athletes where we want that on a talk show where we can tell stories and we can talk with our childhood friends, that have become athletes. And just have a real space for sports fans. And that's why our motto is for the true sports fan. We want a space where people can share their takes and, not be hated on and not have it be a rage bait thing and a title bait, clickbait thing. We just want that real environment for sports. We feel like that's what the sports media world is lacking. And that's what we're coming to the need of. And so we got one rule here at BetIt. If you do enjoy the podcast, if you do enjoy the show, we're not asking for a like, a subscribe, or a comment. You just got to tell your boys about it. You got to tell your buddies about it. You got to tell your family about it. If you do enjoy it and you want more content, you got to just tell people about it. That's all we ask.
Like it, bro. Yeah, I mean, we just grew up always watching sports. Whether it was in the garage or out at the restaurants. We're always tuned into sports. Enjoy watching it. Enjoy making a little money off it too on the side. But yeah, just excited to get started and see what we got on the schedule for today.
100%. So we'll get into our weekly schedule for this week. We're thinking about dropping a couple episodes a week if it's a busier week in sports. If it's a little bit lighter, we'll do one episode a week. But yeah, we want to combine those real sports takes with a little bit of the betting side, make you guys some money. Obviously, there's no financial advice here. But if you do want to take our plays, obviously we're trying to be the most educated, analysts that we can. With that being said, before we get into this week's events, we'll get into a little bit of recap for the NBA playoffs. Slush, tell me a little bit about what you liked about these playoffs, what you felt it was lacking. Obviously we've been treated as Warriors fans with a bunch of title runs. We didn't get that this year. But tell me what you thought was lacking, what you liked about it, and give me a little bit of insight into next year's season. Obviously, we've seen some trades already today with Jordan Poole going to the Pelicans, CJ McCollum coming back. And we also had Drew Holiday earlier yesterday going to the Blazers. So, like I said, give me some insight into the playoffs and give me some insight into next season.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I said, we're both Warrior fans. We traded for Jimmy Butler. That just totally changed the dynamic of the team and everything. I think I don't know what the numbers are, but we had a really good record since that trade happened. So I mean, I was very optimistic. I thought that we had a good chance at getting that fifth title, but injuries happen, and it's part of the game. As they say, the best ability is availability. So you can't help your team that much when you're on the sidelines. But yeah, we pushed Houston to 7 games, or Houston pushed us to 7 games, and then we ended up. I think that took a little energy off from us, and then the Wolves got us in 5 or 6. But yeah, after that, I didn't know who I wanted to root for. I was going. Let's go with Ant. I like Ant, young, energetic player. And then he got knocked out, and then I just wanted to watch good basketball. But I mean, the Pacers series, Thunder. I think that's all we can ask for is a very high intensity, young dogfight matchup. I think it was an amazing story from Indiana how they started they're underdogs in 90% of their games, and they were able to go all the way to 7 with a very talented Oklahoma City team. So, I mean, if Halliburton didn't get hurt, who knows what would have happened? I mean, he started off really hot, and Yeah, Indiana they just fought, and my heart goes out to Halliburton and the fans of Indiana. It's tough way to get knocked out like that, but on to next year.
100%. I mean, as far as the quality of games go, I think it was a really high level series and a really high level playoffs. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest engagement for me as far as two small market teams. I wasn't like super enthralled by that. Not saying it needs to be Lakers and Celtics every year. But it was hard for me to capture my interests for these playoffs. Obviously, I love basketball, so we both were watching it. But as far as the quality of games go, I thought it was an incredible series and incredible playoffs. We'll segue that into a little bit of our favorite team. I'm going to ask you, Slush, what do you think is there gonna be one big splash move like there was at the deadline for Luka and AD? And if so, who is that going to be? And let me piggyback on that question by asking you another question. What do you think the Warriors need to do to maximize what's left of Steph and his career? Because I think there's about a 2 to 3 year window, if that, for Steph and the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, ever since that Luka trade, I think anything is on the table. As far as untouchable, I think we got Steph, we got Wembanyama, we got Jokic. I mean, I think those are the only untouchables, really, because everyone would have said Luka until then. I mean, SGA, I think SGA is probably untouchable now, but yeah, a big trade I could see happening. I think Giannis could get shipped, but I think it just comes down to what he wants and if they're going to build around him in Milwaukee. Because Dame's getting older, he's Achilles injury, so you don't know how it's gonna a 35-year-old's gonna react to that injury, and if he'll be able to bounce back and be the same player he was. So I think Giannis could get moved maybe to I don't know, maybe I would like to see him go to like a Toronto or what's another good one? He could go.
The
I
Dubs.
mean, if he could go to San Antonio, that would be incredible because I know San Antonio wanted Kevin Durant, so they're definitely probably going to be in that trade market, trying to see what they could do. But as far as the Warriors, definitely we need a center. Point blank. Period. We need somebody who could help our defensive anchor, Draymond Green. He's getting older. We need someone that could just a big body, someone that could get rebounds, someone that could just go neck and neck with a 7-footer for 40 minutes a game. I think it'll unlock Draymond offensively a little bit more. And Draymond's the quarterback. He's doing everything. He's shifting everybody around. He's helping everywhere. I've seen plays where Draymond has guarded 5 people, in the same possession. He's just running around. So if we could get like a JaVale McGee, a Andrew Bogut, one of those. You got any names for a center? But that's what I think we need. I think that'll change our team.
I agree. Even during our title runs, we've never had a big name center. I don't think we need an Embiid or somebody like that. I know that was tossed around at the beginning of the season. I don't think we need an Embiid or a Karl Anthony Towns. I think we need a mid-level bridge the gap center that he doesn't have to do too much. He doesn't have to be a facilitator. He doesn't have to be a Jokic. He doesn't have to be a Karl Anthony Towns. I know we discussed earlier in the week, like Walker Kessler's probably not per se untouchable, but I'm assuming they want him to be a part of their young core that they're building in Utah. I'm not sure what their direction is there. But a Walker Kessler, a Jakob Pertl, somebody like that. If you're looking at somebody on an expiring contract that's a little bit older, maybe a Valanciunas, just so you get that floor spacing element. I've always liked Nurkic, but obviously that wouldn't be the greatest fit with the Warriors. But he's in a situation where I believe he's in Charlotte now, Nurkic. Where
yeah. I hate to cut you off, but but you got to trade in right now.
Tell me.
We got Kristaps Porzingis. Where do you think he's going?
Atlanta.
He's going to Atlanta. The full trade details here. We got Kristaps Porzingis and a 2nd-round pick. That's what the Hawks are receiving. The Celtics are receiving Georges Niang and a 2nd-round pick. And the Nets are receiving Terrence Mann and the 22nd pick.
So the Celtics got Georges Niang and a 2nd-rounder?
The Celtics got Georges Niang and a 2nd-rounder. Yeah.
For Porzingis.
for Porzingis. I mean, it's definitely one of those, with the new CBA rules and everything, cutting cost.
Yeah, most
But
definitely. That's a cost
yeah, I
cutting
mean,
move
I think you could get a much better package
for
for
sure.
Porzingis, Georges Niang, and the second round pick. So I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, hey, Trey Young got a star now, so that would be interesting in Atlanta.
I agree. I mean, Porzingis, I don't think fits the mold for the Warriors, but I can tell you, we'd probably offer Moody in a second for Porzingis, which I'd rather have than George Niang.
Yeah,
Um,
Moody. I'll give a Moody and a Trace,
yeah,
uh, Moody and a who else? Moody and a Gee.
exactly. That's what
Someone
I'm
like
saying.
that.
I'd rather have that. That fits their timeline better, especially with the Anthony. And Anthony Simons, Moses Moody backcourt wouldn't be terrible, especially in a rebuild year. That's something.
Definitely, yeah. I think the Moses Moody's that's what you need. You need a wing that could shoot threes and play
Yeah,
defense. I mean, I think he had that. I think they came out with he had that thumb injury. He had to get surgery on because his shot was off towards the end of the end of the playoffs. But I mean, Moody's a good player. But here it says Porzingis for Niang they're saving about $21 million next year, and then Drew for Simons they're saving about $9 million a year for the next 2 to 3 years. So yeah, that's definitely one of those cost cutting moves. But
yeah, that's a salary dump.
yeah, that's a shocker for sure. It's a shocker.
Agreed.
Didn't expect.
Well, that's what you get here with the BetIt podcast. You get live breaking news. So I'm glad we got to, give the audience some breaking news there. I was unaware of that trade. But yeah, it looks like you said, with the new CBA rules, that's a major cost cutting acquisition right there. I've never been the biggest fan of George Niang. I think he's one of those glue guys off the bench. But for Porzingis, I don't know. That's for me.
Yeah.
You can get a better haul than that. Let's put the NBA in our rearview mirror. Obviously, we got 4 or 5 months until we even start talking about that. It's a big off season right now. But let's look ahead. We've got a huge event this weekend at UFC 317. So we're going to break that down. This is more of my realm. I'm a big MMA guy. So we've got the Georgian Ilia Topuria, the former 145-pound champ, vacating his title and moving up to lightweight to face Charles Oliveira, the Brazilian, the former 155-pound champ, for that vacant lightweight title that Islam Makhachev has vacated to go up to 170 in the main event. And in the co-main, we have two of the top guys at 125 pounds, Alexandre Pantoja, the four-time defending champ, going up against the number 4 contender in the world, Kai Kara France from Australia. And this is International Fight Week, so usually people are expecting a bigger name on this. Usually there's a Connor on these cards, and Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski. But when you look at the card, I think it's a great card, and I think you'll agree. Some name value, but more so just some great fights for the hardcore fans. And you'll see that in our next slide. We'll break down the main card a little bit more. But I think the main event is great. While I would rather see Ilia fighting Islam, I think Charles versus Ilia is still a great matchup. And obviously you have the co-main event. These guys have fought before in a pro exhibition on the Ultimate Fighter. Pantoja got the better of Kai Kara France, but this is a whole different fight. That was more than 5 years ago. I always say if a rematch is more than 3 years old, I don't put much stock into that. Fighters grow, fighters evolve, fighters diminish. So let's get into this main card. I know, Slush, you have a few opinions on the main event as well as the co-main event. So take me through that. What do you think happens in the main event, and is there any spots you're looking to potentially bet on?
Yeah, I think Oliveira at plus money. That's I'm always gonna. I like the plus money in the main event. Is it pretty profitable? Probably not, but being able to sweat a dog in a main event. I mean, I think there's no better feeling. I think it's gonna be a good matchup. I think Oliveira has a lot of energy, but at the same time, he's very susceptible to a lot of damage. And Topuria, he's a good fighter, so it's gonna be hard to give him his first loss in this main event. But I got Topuria. I got Topuria. I got Topuria with a knockout. I do. I really think that Oliveira is going to be too aggressive early on, and he's going to get tired, and the champ's going to do what he does. But yeah, what's your take on this?
I agree. I think Topuria gets it done within the first 3. Like you said, I think you brought up a great point about Charles Oliveira. I think he's super hittable. And I think against a guy like Ilia Topuria, I mean, you just saw him knock out Max Holloway, a guy that's never been knocked out.
Only finish has been by submission in the UFC. And prior to that, he finished Alexander Volkanovski in the second round. So those are probably the two best featherweights of all time that he just finished in a row. So when you look at a guy like Ilia Topuria, the only thing that concerns me in this matchup for him is the size of Charles Oliveira. We've seen Ilia go up to lightweight before and fight Jai Herbert, where he had some problems early in the fight. But you ultimately saw him sleep Jai Herbert against the cage in the second round. So, I mean, while the size might be a little bit of a concern, I don't think Charles fights at enough range to keep Ilia back. I think Charles has great power and great jiu-jitsu, but I think if Ilia can get on the inside, I don't think he'll be too worried about Charles' power, which could, on the inverse, I think Ilia is a very, very calculated and smart fighter. But with that being said, he does have an ego. And so if he can fight that ego and stick to the game plan, get on the inside, but not with too much, pressure, but not too much like an all-in style, I think Ilia will get it done. That's my prediction. I'm gonna stick with you and go with the KO in the main event as well. I think Ilia finishes Charles. In the co-main, I think Alexandre Pantoja defeats Kai Kara-France. Kara-France is 1-2 in his last 3. I think this is a shallow flyweight division. They fought before. Pantoja won. While it was a pro exhibition, I don't put too much stock into it. But I think Pantoja is just an elite grappler. I think he's a bully at 125. I think he's more of a 135er that can make this weight. And I think Kara-France is extremely small. So I think Pantoja takes a decision. I think Kara-France might have some moments. But there's also there's a couple other really good fights on this card. I think Brandon Royval is more fit for the title. I think it should be Kara-France versus Josh Van and Royval versus Pantoja. I know we've seen that fight recently. But I think Royval's more fit for the title shot. With that being said, I think Josh Van versus Royval is my fight of the night. I think that's going to be the fight of the night there. I think those are two of the best guys at 125. Josh Van just got a win a couple weeks ago. He's stepping up on short notice to fight Royval for the number 1 contender spot. So I think that's going to be a great fight. Dariush and Moicano, you got two 36-year-olds kind of in the middle of the division, middle of the pack at 155. I'm not too interested in that fight. Not financial advice here. Like we said, we're not going to give any of that, but I think Peyton Talbot is my best underdog of the week here. I like what you said about Oliveira. There's never too much value at plus 300 for a guy that's been a former champ against a guy that's never fought in this division, especially at this caliber of fight with Oliveira. But I think Talbot is my underdog pick of the week. We saw him lose that undefeated record in his last fight against Raoni Barcelos. But that was against a guy who's a 5-time national wrestling champion in Brazil. He was a minus 1,200 favorite in that fight. I think he got propped up too early. I think he was kind of the UFC's golden boy for a little bit. And so I'm going to take him against a supremely talented Felipe Lima, and I'm going to take that plus 200 and ride with Peyton Talbot this week.
I like that. Quick question for you. So what does Oliveira, what's his path to winning this fight? What's his game plan? What is he trying to do?
For sure. So I think the game plan with Oliveira is you got to use your length. You're the bigger guy. You got 3 inches in height. You got some reach on him. And so I think you have to keep Ilia at the outside. I think Ilia's best weapon is when he uses those hooks in the tight space. That's how he knocked out Volkanovski against the cage. That's how he knocked out Holloway. I think you just have to be aware of the power from Topuria. And I know he's a 145er, but this dude hits like an 85er. And so you got to be aware of the power. I think it's going to be an all striking matchup, to be honest with you. I think if there's going to be any grappling, it's going to be Charles initiating the grappling because he's hurt. And so I think you stay on the outside and you got to hope that Ilia feeds into his ego and wants to knock Charles out. And if that's the case, you got to counter him. I think Ilia is going to be the more patient striker. Like you said, I think Charles is very active. But I think Charles's best bet is staying on the outside and using his range and his length, and maybe using some clinch work. I think his clinch work is very good. His Muay Thai work is very good. He's a long guy, sharp elbows. I think that's his only path to victory. He's kind of at the mercy of Topuria, where he's got to let the fight play out, but he can't get into too much danger.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, good analysis.
For sure.
It's going to be a good card for sure.
I agree.
Where are you watching it? You gonna be in Vegas this weekend?
The plan should be that we're both going to be in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, but I think we're both going to be in SoCal watching the fights, which is not a bad spot to be either.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's going to be a good card.
I agree.
Very excited.
I think it's a great card. International Fight Week should deliver. Let's move on, though. Let's talk a little bit about tennis. I know we just enjoyed one of the greatest events in tennis history at the French Open. I know we both got to watch Sinner versus Alcaraz. Alcaraz coming back from 2-0 down against a very tough Sinner, an energized Sinner, a rejuvenated Sinner, to win that title 3-2 in a tiebreak that he dominated. One of the best sporting events, period. I was going to say one of the best tennis matches I've seen, but I'm just going to give it the moniker of one of the best sporting events, period, that I've ever seen. I know we're talking about the Wimbledon preview here, but Slush, take me through, especially being a newer tennis fan, take me through watching that final and, what were your thoughts and feelings? I know you like Alcaraz, so give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big Alcaraz guy. I really like his passion for the game, his energy and fire he plays with. It was a hard watch at first. Sinner went up the first 2 sets, and I'm not gonna lie, I turned the TV off. Yeah, I turned it off. I took mom's out for some lunch, just to get some stress out. Went to a little pho restaurant, and then I look on the TV and I see that it's that Alcaraz won the next 2 sets. So I'm like, oh wow, it's getting interesting. And then it was 2-2, and then that last set was just amazing. It was just peak tennis. Watching those 2 young athletes, just going head and head, it's just nothing better to watch. Just so a lot of talent and energy, and Alcaraz, he did what he always does. He plays the long game and finds a way to grind it out, and that's what I like most about him.
I agree. I think tennis is in a great place. We've spoke before about how much youth there is and how much talented youth there is in the sport. And I think that makes it so easy to watch because you can relate to these guys. I know a lot of our audience is going to be more so into the 3 major sports, basketball, baseball, and football. But I think tennis needs to get a more major look because if you missed that French Open final, you missed out on a great event. And the women's final was incredible too. Even the doubles, I thought all 4 of the major events, women's doubles, men's doubles, and the 2 singles finals were incredible. So yeah. I think if you're one of these people that doesn't like watching tennis, I think you got to give Wimbledon a shot, especially if you're going to put some money down on it. I think it's a great event, and just put $10 down on your favorite guy, on an American, on Ben Shelton in the first round, just to get you to watch, And I think you'll be thoroughly impressed by the tennis, and I think you'll enjoy it. And I think that's something that Slush has realized. Throwing some money down on it and having to watch these events, to sweat out those bets, you realize how great this tennis is. And like I said, there's so much youth talent. And with that being said, we're going to get into Wimbledon. This preview, probably the most prestigious event in tennis is the Wimbledon finals. So let's get into it. We're going to give you our odds-on favorite, so our favorite, and then we'll give you a long shot play, so more so of a value play. I'm going to be boring with my pick. I'm going to say Jannik Sinner is my pick just because, he's great on grass. I think his game translates well. I think he has the best ground strokes in tennis. That serve's going to play, especially on grass. It's a little bit more of a quick surface. I think that plays into his hands, even though Carlos is a 2-time defending champion. I just think that loss to Carlos in the French Open final is such a heartbreaker. Sinner either goes out in the early rounds or wins the whole thing. I don't think there's any in between. I think he's either still lingering on that loss from the French Open or he wins it all. Plus 140, just wait till the final to bet on him if you're going to bet on it. It's not worth waiting 2 weeks for a plus 140, even if you think he's going to win. To give you guys a little more value, I'm going to give you Ben Shelton at plus 3,300, the American. A little bit biased there because he is American. But his serve is huge. He's got the biggest serve in men's tennis, especially on grass. It's going to play even quicker. I've just liked the improvements he made. He's broken into the top 10. At plus 3,300, it's just too much value to miss out on for me with how big his game is. I think on clay, he gave Carlos a tough run, but clay really shows who's the better player from the back of the court because you're not getting as many free points on serve because the surface is a little bit slower. So it's going to be about who can grind out those points like you were saying with Alcaraz. I think the grass allows Ben Shelton to rack up more free points on his serve, and I think that gets him into the second week of the tournament, and at plus 3,300, I think you're going to see those odds drop really quickly when he stays in the tournament, especially if he gets a favorable draw. You're good.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good pick. I mean, Shelton is, he's young. What is he, 19, 20, 21,
Young
22?
American. Yeah, I think he's
One
20,
of those.
22, 23.
Yeah, him and his pops just out there grinding. I mean, he's putting on. He's putting on for our country. I mean, I think he's one of the best American players right now, and that serve is just something else. But for my Wimbledon, I'm gonna go with my pick is going to be Novak at plus 450. I think that Novak, he's getting older. He's still an amazing player, and I think this might be his last chance to win a Grand Slam. Just given the talent that's coming up and the young, it's very hard to win these Grand Slams at that age. But just his experience, his how he could deal with the crowds and manage the game and manage a tournament and manage his body. I think that Novak at plus 450 is amazing value. I mean, for a guy like that to be at plus 450, it's kind of a no-brainer to go with that. And then for my long shot, I'm gonna go with Zverev winning his first Grand Slam. I mean, I think that Zverev, he's good on grass. This dude's an animal. What is he? 6'5",
Big dude.
6'6"?
Big dude.
Yeah, he's very, very lengthy. He moves great for his size, and I think he'll be able to do good on the grass. And I don't think there's anybody that he doesn't have a chance with. If he goes up against a Sinner or Alcaraz or Novak, I think that if he's locked in and he sticks to his game plan, I think that he could pull it off. So that's going to be my long shot. We got Zverev at plus 1,200.
I agree. I like
good
that
value.
Pick. I agree. We've seen Zverev push these guys in slams before. He was up 2-0 on Alcaraz in the French Open final not too long ago. So I agree. I think those are two great picks. Moving on, we're going to hit the women's side real quick. Let's see what we got here as far as odds go. My pick I've been discussing for a little bit is going to be the former Wimbledon champ, Alina Rybakina. I think if she's on, her serve is huge. I think Sabalenka's maybe the only one that can rival her serve in terms of pace. And I think on grass, it's going to give her a lot of free points. I think the only time she falters is she kind of checks in and out mentally within the match. One set, you'll see her playing like the best player in the world. The next, you'll kind of think, what is she doing here? I don't know. That's the one thing about women's tennis is it's so wide open, as you'll see by the odds. There's no clear-cut favorite. I know Sabalenka is at plus 250 there. Over a 2-week event, obviously Sabalenka is the favorite, but I don't love her on grass. I also don't think over a 2-week event that's a great future at plus 250, especially in such a wide open event. For my long shot pick, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you Naomi Osaka at plus 2,800. 4-time Grand Slam champion. I think she's dealt with some health issues. She's dealt with some mental issues. But I think for somebody, like you said, with Novak, for somebody with so much experience, I think that's too much value there. And I'm also going to give you Jasmine Paolini, multiple-time slam finalist at plus 3,000. She's won singles Grand Slams. She's won doubles Grand Slams. I know grass isn't her strongest surface, but at plus 3,000, I just think that's too much value there. I'm just going to go with value. I don't think that per se they're going to win it. I'm not going to come out of the woodwork and say this is my dark horse, but that's too much value on those two that have won slams before and with really no clear-cut physical issues right now. I think that's too much value to pass up if you want to just put $5 or $10 on it.
I agree. That's very good value. I mean, betting, we'll get deeper into the betting side maybe in the future, but I mean, it's all about value. If you see a pick that's undervalued and everything lines up to where like you think they should be lower odds or higher odds, you have to play the value. That's what it's all about. That's how these books are ran. They're all ran on statistical algorithms. So I mean, yeah, I really like that value. With my pick, I'm gonna go with Iga. I'm actually gonna be playing Iga at the plus 650 and Coco at the plus 600. I think Coco played amazing last in the French Open. She was down to Sabalenka in the first set, and then she came back and won the next two. And I think she's hot. She's playing some of her best tennis right now. So if she could bring that over to the Wimbledon, keep the momentum rolling, I think it's not impossible that she could come away with this Wimbledon with a win. So those are going to be my two. I really like those. Those two, and then my long shot is going to be Wang. We heard a lot about Wang and how she bounced back from the last tournament she played in. I've seen a lot of good clips. She's been working. I think she was training somewhere, somewhere in like Eastern Europe. But I've seen some clips, and she looks like she's ready to play. So it's gonna be it's a long shot. It's a long shot, definitely. I think it's. Do I have the odds on that? I think it's. Do we have Wang?
Plus 6,600.
Plus 6,600. That's amazing value. So if you could just throw half a unit on that, that would be.
Yeah, if that. I mean, $10. What is $10 going to get you? $660?
A tenth of a unit to win 660, couple steak dinners. I mean, that's not too bad. What's $10? But I think Wang might be able to shock the world. Maybe just remember that name.
Especially in women's tennis. I mean, it's so wide open, like we discussed earlier. There's not really a clear-cut favorite, like we said. So, who knows?
Yeah. Anything can happen. I love watching women's tennis. They're just very competitive, and it's short matches. They play the 3 sets. So, yeah, I'm very interested in this Wimbledon women's tournament.
Easy to watch for sure, and a lot of value. With that, we're going to move forward a little bit into something a little different, something we're super passionate about. We're going to go through our All-Star Game ballots for each of us. We're also going to do some trade deadline predictions. Let's get right into it. We're both former collegiate athletes with baseball, so this is something that we're super passionate about. I'll go through my ballot first. So for the American League, I've got a little bit of a sleeper at first base, Jonathan Aranda. Believe he leads the league in OPS. I also got Gleyber Torres. It was between him and Jackson Holiday. And I think the Orioles have been struggling, so I went with the guy with the higher OPS and the better team record with Gleyber Torres. Second base is a really weak class with both the American and National League. For third base, got to go with J-Ram. I mean, that's a clear-cut winner right there. Shortstop, in a loaded shortstop American League class, you got guys like Jacob Wilson, who I believe is on your ballot, Slush, as well as Bobby Witt. I went with Jeremy Pena just because what he can do with the glove. I think he does it on both sides of the ball. Outfield, I went with Byron Buxton, Riley Green, and Aaron Judge. Obviously you've got Aaron Judge, front runner for the AL MVP, perennial All-Star. Riley Green, more of a breakout candidate, a guy that really has been swinging the stick well, leading the Tigers to the best record in the American League. And I think they might have the best record in baseball, if I'm not mistaken. And we've also got Byron Buxton, who, when healthy, is also a perennial All-Star. We've got Cal Raleigh, who just broke the home run record prior to the All-Star break for a catcher, so you got to have him on there. And we've got Ryan O'Hearn, who I think has been far and away the best DH in the American League.
Yeah, definitely. He's having a hell of a year. Him and Raleigh. How many home runs is Raleigh? Did he pass 30 home runs yet?
I think he's got 32. I think he hit his 32nd yesterday.
That guy he's the best hitting catcher in baseball right now.
I agree.
Sure. Switch hitter. Yeah, that's a lot of talent over there.
I agree. National League side, I've got the clear-cut guy, Freddie Freeman. It's either him or Pete Alonso. Pretty much the easiest race is Ketel Marte. He's putting up incredible numbers. If you don't have guys like Shohei there, I think he might be the leader for MVP. I mean, you look at his numbers, and they're pretty incredible. Machado's the leader at third base for me. Lindor, not really a lot of shortstops you want to put in there, but Lindor's going to get it from me. Outfield is where it gets stacked for the National League. I put 3 guys making their first All-Star appearance over guys maybe like a Kyle Tucker that's been there before, Ronald Acuna, who I don't think has played enough games. So I've got Andy Pajes, James Wood, and Pete Crow Armstrong. Pete Crow, done it on both sides of the ball. He's hitting this year. I think that was the main concern prior to getting traded to the Cubs, is will his bat be enough to play in the major leagues? He's answered all those questions at Wrigley. Andy Pajes, I think, has been probably the most underrated player in baseball this year. I haven't seen a lot of talk about him, and he's been raking. James Wood is incredible, part of the Juan Soto trade there. So all 3 guys, I've got new fresh faces in the All-Star game, which I like. At catcher, I've got Will Smith, kind of a weak position yet again. And designated hitter should be Shohei, but I'm going to give the Giants a little love. I didn't have any of our hometown squad on there, so we'll get the newly acquired Rafael Devers in there.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think about that trade?
I loved it. I mean, honestly, I think we're in the window of we've kind of, the fans have been antsy for another title run. And if you got the chance to acquire a guy like Rafi, I think you got to do it, especially for what we gave up. Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, and James Tibbs, and I think one other prospect. you got to do it, especially for, two guys that have, Kyle Harrison's definitely got some potential for sure, but that fastball is flat, and the same can be said for Jordan Hicks. I think he's a reliever, bona fide reliever. We tried to make him a starter. I don't think he's a starter. Had a great first half of last year, but for me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. It's always tough to see a homegrown guy get traded away like Harrison, but when there's a Rafael Devers on the table for just a couple pitchers and a prospect, I think it's a no-brainer. You got to go with it. You got to take the trade. I don't think we've had somebody that could put 30 home runs out since Bond. So
Yep.
if Devers is out there and the asking price isn't super high, you're gonna go get him.
Have to. There's no other option. I agree. Moving on, Slush, we're going to get to your picks here. I know you've got a little bit of differentiating from me, but some of the same.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of the same picks. We have Ramirez, we got Buxton, Green, Judge.
Yep,
Raleigh,
same outfield.
Turner. Yeah, same outfields. And then National League, we have Marte. We have Marte. Did you have Machado?
I did. So we got the same infield as well. We got Freeman, Marte, Machado, and Lindor. Same infield there.
Yeah, and then PCA. And I think Jackson, he likes to do the route where it's off talent and like the players who are having the best year. I kind of went more the traditional route, what the fans want to see. I think I put Jackson Holiday in there, young star. Everybody likes to see the young stars. Is he the best second baseman in the American League right now? I don't know. But I think it would be fun to see him play in the All Star game. And then we have, Goldschmidt. He's having a good year. That New York Stadium. It's always a fun ballpark to play in. That little small park. Pop one out to right. Jacob Wilson, this guy, he's very talented. I watched him play back when he was at GCU.
Yep.
When I was down there. I caught a game, and he's just his passion for the game was like you could just tell like this guy's gonna be special. He's just a natural born leader. He just carries himself in a very good way, and I knew it would translate. I didn't know that he would be up in the big leagues, being a star this soon, but he's just a grinder, man. He's a grinder. So I'm glad to see Oakland get a prospect like that. Just hope he doesn't get traded away because Oakland, they get their prospects, they trade them away, they save money, they move to Vegas. That's the Oakland route right now. So and then Judge, incredible year. Judge is doing Judge things. I don't even get surprised at when I see stats pop up about Judge. What is he batting? 360, 370?
Yeah, close to 400.
Come on, like this guy, it's just you expect it from him now, and it's hard to say that because when he struggles a little, it's like, oh, Judge, like, come on, man, but like this dude's very talented. And then with the National League, we got same infield. They're all having pretty good years. The NL West, man, is stacked, very stacked. We got the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Giants, and then the Rockies, but a lot of talent over there. So I'm going to go with Acuna. He was hurt. He came back. He's playing incredible. Very electric player. I think he's the typical all-star player, all-star guy. Like, that's what you want to see. 115 mile per hour exit velo, throwing 100 from the outfield. He's just very exciting. So I'm glad he was able to bounce back from that injury. And then we got PCA, incredible talent, young dude. Great outfielder, fast guy. You always see highlights of PCA. He's just a walking reel. And then Soto went across the city to the Mets. He's having a pretty good year. It's always some growing pains when you join a new team, but I'm glad Soto's doing good, so I want to see him in the All-Star game. And then next for the catcher spot, we got Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly's having a pretty good year offensively. I could have went with Will Smith. I think that's one of the more popular choices, but trying to limit as many Dodgers players. I don't want it to be an American League versus Dodgers team because they're already gonna have some pitchers and stuff, and Mookie will probably be on the team. So I went with Carson Kelly, and then Ohtani. Fan favorite, face of the Major League Baseball. We're gonna go with Ohtani for the DH spot. So I think it's gonna be a very, very exciting All-Star game. It's always a fun time to just relax and watch the home run derby and all the celebrity games and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoy All Star Weekend. I know as a former baseball player, me and Jackson know that anytime you could, take 3, 4, 5 days off of a 162 game season, it's always good for the mind and the body. And a lot of teams come out strong from the All Star break, whole different dynamic, and they can make a run. So very very excited about this.
I agree. I think we both had some great picks. Can't go wrong with your All Star ballot. There's no wrong or right answer. But I think it's something that's fun, getting the fan engagement up as far as there being fan voting for this All Star game. So I think it's always a great idea.
Definitely.
Moving on to our final topic. I know we're a little ways away from the NFL season. We just had the draft. Saw a couple interesting slides, including your boy Shadur. But we're going to get into some awards predictions and some season previews for our two favorite teams. So let's get into that. Slush, I'm going to have you break down your awards choices first. Take me through your MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year on both sides, Comeback Player of the Year, Protector of the Year, which I just put Trent Williams on there for you, and then your Coach of the Year.
Yeah. So MVP, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, MVP DNA. This guy's one of a kind for sure. And he's what does he have? 2 MVPs now, I think.
Yeah.
Or yeah, 2. So I mean, coming off of a Super Bowl loss, I think he's going to be more motivated than ever. You don't hear a lot about Patrick Mahomes in the offseason, which I think is a good thing. I mean, he's always dedicated, such a team player, trying to. And, he has a coach like Andy Reid, so it's always going to be success over there in Kansas City. So I think he bounces back, and I think he has a super strong season. And Offensive Player of the Year, Bijan. This guy he's a monster back there. He could catch balls in the backfield. He could run 50, 60, 70 yards, trucking people. So Bijan, I think with Michael Penix coming in, and hopefully he's going to take over in Atlanta. It's going to be a very dynamic offense, and I think that he has a really breakout year. Bijan, Offensive Player of the Year usually goes to running back. So the other one I was going to say was Jamar Chase, but I think Bijan he gets a little more experience. He gets older. The offensive line, they beefed it up a little, so I think he has a strong season. Defensive Player of the Year, Max Crosby. I can see you have him as well. They have a good defensive coordinator over there. I think that was the guy who used to be with the Ravens. And, you bring Pete Carroll in, he's always going to have, some good defensive. He's a defensive-minded coach, so he's always going to have some. He always has a strong D-line. So Max Crosby, I think he has a breakout year. And then Offensive Rookie of the Year, Shadur Sanders. I think he beats out the other 5, 6 quarterbacks they have there in Cleveland for the starting spot. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Shadur. I heard a lot of good things about how he's performing in the camp, and a guy like Shadur, he's gotten a lot. He's been through a lot of adversity, just being so into the media at a young age, and I mean, it's hard to have a dad like Deion Sanders, and he's seen as like a cocky guy, and the son. He doesn't always get the benefit of the doubt. So I'm rooting for Shadur. I think he's going to be able to adjust pretty well. And then Abdul Carter, this guy's a freak. Penn State always produces good DNs, linebackers, as we can see. I think he's going to be like a Micah Parsons, which was also a Penn State alum. I think he has a good season over there in New York with bringing in a veteran like Russell Wilson. I think the culture is going to change over there in New York, and I think they're going to be a very professional team, and they're going to bring New York back to what it should be. And comeback player of the year, Anthony Richardson. This guy is very athletic, very talented. 6'5", 2 something. This guy's a beast. He could run the ball, throw the ball, do it all. So I think he comes back from that injury strong. I really like what they're building over there in Indianapolis. They got a good young core. And I think he bounces back. He's the leader of this team, and he shows the NFL what he could really do. And then we got Trent Williams here. Trent Williams, I didn't know if he was going to come back. I think there's always a chance of someone like that retiring when you make it so close to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship so many times, and then you know, it's hard. It's hard to come back from something like that. But he's back. He's old, but this guy's he's the MVP of the 49ers. I think 80% of our run plays are run towards his side. He's been the best tackle in football since he came into the league, pretty much. And then we're gonna go coach of the year, Ben Johnson. I think he stays in the division. He knows a lot about that NFC division, and he goes to a rival of the Detroit. And I like what they're building over there in Chicago. I'm pretty high on Caleb Williams. I think that I didn't know how he was gonna come into the NFL and adjust, but I think he's done a pretty good job. And I was excited to see what Chicago did last year and building on from that this year, bringing in a coach like Ben Johnson. I think he's going to change the culture over there and really, I'm pretty high on Chicago and the success that they're going to have this year.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think you froze for a second, Slush. I think you're good now.
Oh my bad, my
No,
bad.
you're
Yeah.
good. You're good. I got the same MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Not too much explanation there. Two of the best, if not the best players at their position. Offensive Player of the Year, I went Jahmyr Gibbs. Similar logic to your Bijan pick. I think he catches the ball out of the backfield. I was going to go with Alvin Kamara, but his line's not good enough. There's not enough weapons there with the Saints. But I went with a guy that's a good pass catcher out of the backfield, can run the ball, can catch the ball. That's a unique system. They're going to be designing a lot of plays through him. So I think that's a good spot for Jahmyr Gibbs to kind of break out even more so than he has. You see two Raiders at my Defensive Player of the Year and Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think Ashton Genty is going to get a ton of looks. I think they're going to run the ball a lot with Pete Carroll. I know that the running joke is that Pete Carroll doesn't really run the ball because of what happened in the Super Bowl. But I think Ashton Genty is going to get a ton of looks, especially with a quarterback that's new in the system. You got Geno Smith there. So I think they're going to be looking to take some pressure off of him by using a workhorse like Genty. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I picked Mason Graham. Kind of an undersized D tackle, but I think, it's like when you put a hitter into a lineup with a ton of protection. Like, obviously, Freddie Freeman's going to have a great year when he's got Shohei hitting behind him. You have to pitch to him. It's kind of like with Mason Graham, you can't run the ball towards Myles Garrett, so you're going to run the ball towards Mason Graham's side, that interior line. You'd rather run it through him than a guy like Myles Garrett. So I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities for tackles for loss and stuff like that. Comeback Player of the Year, I picked Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's a pretty basic pick there, but I think he's going to have the most media attention on him coming back. The Detroit Lions are more of a media team now that they've gotten some publicity. And so I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him as long as he can stay healthy. I know it's usually a quarterback award. I know you went with a quarterback with Anthony Richardson, and the odds-on favorite, I believe, is Aaron Rodgers. So if he can have even a semi-decent year, I think Aaron Rodgers will win it. But I think Aiden Hutchinson comes out strong. Protector of the Year, I went with Joe Alt. I'm not the most informed guy on the offensive line side, but he had a great year last year. And I think they're going to run the ball a lot with the Jim Harbaugh offense there. I think Justin Herbert needs Joe Alt to be great. And I'm not the highest on the Raiders, but I think Pete Carroll, you just can't discount a guy like that, a legendary coach in the collegiate ranks as well as the pros. I mean, he's coming in, and it's not like he's inheriting a team that's terrible. They've done a lot of work this offseason, drafted a kid from TCU in the second round, Beck, and with their first-round pick, they picked Ashton Genty. So I think they did a lot of work on that offense. I didn't love the pickup of Geno Smith, but I also didn't hate it. So, I think they rebuilt that offense a little bit. Obviously, you got one of the best tight ends in the league with Brock Bowers. And I think Pete Carroll's really going to maximize that offense. Like you said, he is a defensive-minded coach, but I think that offense is really going to get unlocked under Geno and Pete Carroll. If somebody, they've been familiar with each other before. So I think that's going to be a really, really strong fundamental team. So that's why I went with him for my coach of the year.
I like that. Good analysis. Do we have an early Super Bowl winner? You got anything in mind?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple teams that are pretty solid. Obviously you have the Chiefs and the Bills going to be good every year. That's the repetitive pick. I think the Bills could break through and win the Super Bowl this year. I think they need another weapon on offense. I think they've got the foundation there. I think their line's good. Their defense is good. And picked up Joey Bosa on the line. They've got a lot of aging guys. I think their window's closing quickly, so I think they need another receiver. Honestly, you can't go into the season with Keon Coleman as your one. So I think if there's a chance to trade for somebody there, I think they got to do it. I think the Bills have a good shot. As far as my sleeper team goes, hard pressed to find a team like that. If the Texans are completely healthy, I think they've got a good shot. That offense is really good when they're healthy. But honestly, I think the Bills. I think the Bills are going to break through and take that first title this year. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Bills, I feel like the Bills, they don't make too much noise in the offseason. You don't hear a lot about them. I mean, the only thing I really heard is that new super stadium they're supposed to be building. But I mean, my team, I'm gonna have to early shot right now. I would have to go with Baltimore.
Yeah.
I think another year of Derrick Henry and Lamar together. If they can stay healthy, that's just a super dynamic combo. I mean, it's hard to stop one of them, so you put both of them together. It just makes that offense so dynamic, and it's just very very strong offense. Very hard to defend. I know that they have a good coach like Harbaugh.
Yeah.
If they could get that defense back to where it used to be, I think that Baltimore could do it this year and see Lamar get his first ring. But my long shot, I would probably say maybe I don't even know. Long shot is hard in the NFL because it's so hard to. I would say maybe Seattle. I like Seattle. I think Darnold's gonna go over there, and Darnold's coming off a good year, so I think that he could go over there to Seattle, and him and is DK's not over there, nah.
Nah, he's with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, DK's at Pittsburgh, yeah, so maybe not Seattle, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's just gonna be one of the
Atlanta,
big
now that
teams
I'm
next
thinking
year.
of it.
Yeah, Atlanta's good. They have a good defense.
Atlanta could
They have
be
a good
good.
defense. No, they have a good defense. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be one of the top teams again. It's hard to say it, but it's probably going to be the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, one of those
I
guys, one of
agree.
the big
Yeah, it's
dogs.
hard to take out one of the big dogs. I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Slush. Well, I think that concludes our first episode of the BetIt podcast. We're going to have a ton more content pumping out within the next couple of weeks. We got a couple of big events coming up with the tennis. We'll track the tennis. We'll give a recap of the UFC 317. And as the NBA offseason unfolds, we'll be breaking down those trades and moves as well. We appreciate everybody that is watching. If you guys want more, like we said, we don't need you to subscribe. We don't need you to like, although that would be nice. We just need you to tell one of your friends about it, tell your family about it, tell somebody about it. Because we know once you start watching it, you'll be entertained, and that's all we want.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you have any suggestions or anything, just make sure to let us know down in the comments. We're pretty open book over here. We just like to have fun. What a lot of the young adults like to do. They like to watch sports and bring the analysis side to it and just have a good time, be entertaining. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Jackson.
Yep, we'll catch y'all next week. I think we're gonna do what I wanted to do is a segment where we bring people in if where we have a live segment and we can get people in to debate us, whoever that may be. We'll just take people in a queue and have people come in and debate us and talk sports with us. I think that would be super fun. I think even with just starting off, we'll have a relatively small audience, but if there are some people that want to come in and talk sports live with us maybe once a week, I think that's something that we'll definitely look into. But like Slush said, if you guys have any comments or anything that you would like us to see next or like to see us do next, let us know.
I like it. Yep. You guys take care.
Yep.
Bet it out.
Yep.